The 2024 legislative session is coming up entirely too fast. I'm Ben Doerr with Minnesota Gun Rights, and before this video is done, you're gonna know the top 5 gun control bills that I think we're gonna face in the 2024 legislative session. I'm gonna give you a quick breakdown on them, and I'm gonna give you some action items and things you can do to help us fight for the Second Amendment and defeat this gun control next session. All right, guys, before we hop into it, do us a favor, like, share, subscribe to this channel that you're watching it on. Share this with your family and friends. Give us a thumbs up. It helps the algorithm, and in that way, helps defeat all this gun control that we're facing coming up in the 2024 legislative session. All right, I'm going to break it down from what I consider to be worst to far worse, okay? Number 5, I think we're going to be facing mandated firearms storage laws. This legislation was passed in Michigan this year in 2023. So the same time Tim Walz signed red flag laws and universal background checks in Minnesota, Gretchen Whitmer signed universal background checks, red flag laws, and mandated firearms storage laws. They want your guns to be locked up in a safe, unloaded, and separate from your ammo at all times. And God help you, if they pass this legislation and somebody breaks into your house and the gun that you used to defend yourself, if it didn't come out of that safe, they're going to try to lock you up for it. They think it's a good talking point for the public that we're forcing people to lock up their guns. It'll only make people less safe, and it will empower criminals. So it's mandated firearm storage laws is number 5. Number 4, I think we're going to be facing mental health gun control in 2024 as well. This legislation is moving in places like New York, where they want you to go through a mental health screen, basically a mental health background check to make sure you're, thinking the right way about Joe Biden, about, whether your gender is binary or not. They're going to have their list of rules and the things that you must comply with. And if you don't, they're going to say that you are that your mental health is bad, that you love our country too much, that you're a white supremacist, all the things, all the calls. And they're going to try to take our guns away through mental health gun control. This legislation is being pushed again in big-time blue states all across the country. And all of these states collaborate together, and I think that Minnesota is going to be pushing similar legislation in 2024. Number 3, I think we're going to see a big push for banning all magazines that hold more than 10 rounds of ammo. They call them high-capacity magazines. They're not high-capacity. These are standard-capacity magazines. Everybody has them. 30-round magazines for your AR-15s. 15, 17 round magazines for your Glock 17s or whatever it is you have, whatever you're carrying. They want to ban these. They want to make it so that all guns can only hold 7 rounds, maybe 10 rounds or less. They want to, like New York. Okay. This is more legislation I think we're going to see. Again, they think it sells to the public. They say, well, if we say that larger magazines mean a higher body count, well, then it'll make sense to everybody and they'll sign off on a magazine ban. We won't sign off on it. Gun owners won't sign off on it. We're going to fight them tooth and nail. Number 2, now you might think this should be number 1, but wait till you see number 1. Number 2, I think we're going to see a huge push for a so-called assault weapons ban. Full-blown California, New York style ban on AR-15s and hundreds of different firearms. Now, some people sit there and say, well, I don't have an AR-15. Especially some folks in the older generation think that an AR-15 isn't something that people should own. They're thinking of maybe their time back in the military, stuff like that. But the reality is this legislation will ban hundreds of different firearms, not just an AR-15. They're going to throw all kinds of stuff in there. And for better, for worse, whether people like it or not, the AR-15 is America's rifle. It's a symbol of freedom, and it is the most commonly owned rifle in the entire country. Okay? It's the gun that people go to when they want to defend their hearth and home, man. So I think they're going to try to ban this, the AR-15 and many, many, many similar firearms, perhaps in 2024. Maybe they'll hold it for another legislative session. It all depends on how hungry the DFL is in St. Paul going into next year. And that's a big one. That's a do or die kind of legislation right there when it comes to freedom. And the number one gun control bill that I think we're going to be facing in 2024 is Senator John Marty's Senate File 1723, which we have not so affectionately named the Nuclear Gun Control Bill. If you get our emails, if you were around or involved in the 2023 legislative session, if you get our direct mail, our letters that we send out, then you already know what this bill is. This is a 17 or 18 part gun control bill. And I'll just list off a couple of things that it does. It will ban 50 caliber firearms entirely. It'll get rid of open carry. It will require physical tests to carry guns. So you better be ready to hop your fences, people. Physical tests, mental health tests. Again, more mental health gun control. It's all wrapped in one bill, Senate File 1723. It requires you to go through more mandated training in order to carry a firearm. They want you to have liability insurance. So you're going to get insurance cards just to have the right to carry a firearm. The list goes on. It'll create a full-blown registry of gun owners. Every gun will be registered. This is Senate File 1723. This is Senator John Marty's nuclear gun control bill. He's been pushing it for a couple of years. I think it'll be a big push for them to go for something like this. But my fear, and what I think is a possibility, is we get another shooting like we saw in Maine, right? And if that happens in Minnesota, all bets are off. All bets are off. If Tim Walz and the DFL and some of these lame rhinos, if they think that public sentiment is totally behind them, they're going to go for everything they can possibly get. And I think a ban on AR-15s is completely on the table at that point. And I think that John Marty's nuclear gun control bill will also be on the table should something like that happen. And one of the most dangerous parts about John Marty's bill is that they could try to make themselves look reasonable. So if they really wanted to pass it, and they're going to go for it, and it's going through committee, what they could likely do is say, you know what, this bill it's a little bit onerous. It's a little more than we want to do. We want to respect the Second Amendment. And we might see them remove 1 or 2 or 3 of those provisions out of the bill, right? Maybe they get rid of physical tests, or maybe they remove the requirement for more training. But they'll leave all the rest of that crap in there. And that's the final bill they'll pass. And they'll sit there and say, see, weren't we reasonable? We worked with people. We took out some of this onerous stuff. And I think that stuff is very, very, very much on the table, especially if there's some sort of shooting, which always seems to coincide with a hard push from some people, but we won't go into that. But those are the top 5. I think we're going to see mandated firearm storage, mental health gun control, a ban on all magazines over 10 rounds, a ban on AR-15s and hundreds of different firearms, and perhaps a large push for Senator John Marty's Senate File 1723, the nuclear gun control bill. What can you do? Get on board. Renew your membership with Minnesota Gun Rights for 2024. There's links in the description above and below this video and in the comments section. Renew your membership for next year. Share this video with your family, with your friends. If you live in Minnesota, you should know what we're facing when session kicks off not too long from now. And if you're not signed up to get our emails, the last thing you can do, there's a link, again, in the description of this video. Sign up, get our email blast. We send them out periodically. So you have all of the details on what we're fighting, when we're fighting it, and we give action items, phone numbers, direct connect emails you can send to your legislators telling them to vote no on this legislation. Those are the 3 things you can do. And the last thing you can do, like, share, subscribe to this channel. Help us fight back in 2024, and I'll have more information for you guys very soon.